Simcha, celebration of life.
Hello, welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm Nikki Wallman. Hazel Frankel's multi-layered new book, Illuminating Love, takes you on a journey in search of meaning. The book focuses on the relationship between a Lithuanian-born mother and her South African-born daughter. It contains exquisite poems that reveal a story of lost love and homeland, portraying descriptive memories of Jewish life in the ghettos of Lithuania.
Were I to ask directions in Yiddish to my Rakishok today, no one would reply. Were I to ask directions in Lithuanian to Roskiskis, they would know. On the road to my shtetl today, same landscape, forests, rivers, grass. On the road to my shtetl today, broken stones, unmarked graves. The lost, a list of numbers, dates, places, no names. My mother once passed a comment that my grandmother wrote poetry. I thought, well, if she had written, what would she have written? And I started writing in her voice, the voice of an older woman who had journeyed from Lithuania to South Africa as a young person, and what would that journey have been like for her? What would her home life have been like in Russia? And how was it for her when she came here? I met my chosan for the first time under the chuppah. We sipped from the same cup. I peeped from under my veil. He broke the glass with one stamp, shards to commemorate the destruction of the temple. Had we been alone, he would have bent to kiss. The book is fiction, but I was fortunate enough to do a project for the Chevra Kadisha, and I interviewed 28 people who told me about their journeys. So a lot of the experiences that I heard about are invested in the poems, incidents that inspired me, little threads of reality and truth. The background I try to make as real as possible, to imagine what Lithuania would have been like. We know about what happened in Germany and Poland, but Lithuanian stories are not that easy to come by. And I think I was very much driven to put that on paper and to have a record of it. Maybe another way of offering a testimony. Every Shabbos, beneath the crown of the Torah scroll, beneath the eye of the silver lion, my father murmured ancient blessings as the choir croaked like crows, except for my father, kissing the fringes in our tent of his talus, raising his rough chin where a tiny cotton ball caught his blood, except for my father, whose heart beat my answers, whose song flew from the siddur. I incorporate a lot of Yiddish into the book, but in a friendly way so that it encapsulates what the English is saying, but acts as a contrast and maybe deepens and enriches what I'm talking about. Yiddish is not an official language. However, Jewish people in South Africa are still very intensely connected to their Lithuanian roots. So when I say something like oven, I'll also include the word pripachik. So you get both sides of the Lithuanian culture, our culture, what we know, but maybe it also brings in a taste of another world. In every shtetl, Jews in the center circle. In every wooden house, a kitchen, a pripachik. On every hob, water in a bowl, a brass samovar, ash in the flue. It's certainly something that I'm very passionate about because I still feel very connected to my grandparents, to Durham, to what they experienced. And that family life is what they brought here. And those traditions that they carried with them are traditions that we still use today. And my hope is that it would resonate with many people to remember what went before and value what went before in a society in the present where everything is easy come, easy go, easy to be trashed, easy to be lost, with no enrichment and no soul. We all held hands. We held out our hands. None left out. None left.
Pioneered by Rabbi Emanuel Jacobowitz in the 1950s, Jewish medical ethics is a modern scholarly and clinical approach to medical ethics that draws on Jewish thought and teachings. Over the next few months, Rabbi Gideon will explore various medical approaches and explain how Jewish law, or halacha, is integrated into the decision-making process.
The question of medical ethics, as is termed in general, already dates back to the times of certainly the Talmud, which is the earliest written tradition that the Jewish people have. The concept behind it is a very simple one, and that is that everything in life that we encounter, no matter what it might be, has a directive from God exactly how He wants us to conduct ourselves in these particular matters and in this regard. Jewish law is all predicated, number one, on passages in the Bible, in the Tanakh, and number two, on the discussion of the rabbis pertaining to those particular verses as they are articulated certainly in what is known as the Gemara, or perhaps more colloquially appreciated as the Talmud. The Talmud itself is one litany of argument. It's about 2,700 pages of differing opinions that conflict with one another. It doesn't talk about brain death. It doesn't talk about fertility treatment in some instances. It doesn't talk about the issues that we are confronting because it was something which was totally out of their paradigm. It wasn't part of their lexicon. IVF, brainstem, that didn't exist. And therefore one is forced and compelled to try and analyze the text. And yes, indeed, there are differing opinions. And the rabbi has to be able to sit down and look at all the opinions, which our predecessors didn't have that privilege. The beauty of it is that Jewish law is able to find a legal precedent, and this is the important idea, a legal precedent for all medical experiences that actually transpire, save certainly actually there's one where we're not 100% clear about, and please God, in the future of this series we will touch upon it. The impact of that is that I would say there is no such thing as Jewish medical ethics. You see, the concept of ethics is very pliable. It changes with times. If one were to look at the Hippocratic Oath in its original text, and we would look at it as it is today, you will see many changes. And those changes are all brought about because of a change in societal norms. Therefore, it means that the medical ethics of today are not necessarily the medical ethics of tomorrow. When we look at it from a Jewish point of view, we're not asking what is the ethical dimension. We are really asking what is the legal dimension that is presented in a precedent that is already articulated by our great rabbis in the times of the Talmud. Therefore, as we progress and as medical science progresses, Jewish law in many instances does not respond to the new medical realities because Jewish law has preceded the medical realities. And we will see that in certain aspects, that there are passages in the Talmud which for the life of me I cannot fathom how on earth they understood it before the medical reality became what it is today. And only today do they take on a totally new life, a life which expresses that it is really talking to you and I. Living today in the 21st century, we are able to look back and to see how Jewish law, how God's divine word is still pertinent, is still relevant, and very much a part of our day-to-day lives in every sphere. But we also have to understand that apart from our need to see it as something that is relevant and pertinent, it is critically important for us to appreciate throughout this series, Jewish law is circumstantial. And what I mean by that is that there is no one-size-fits-all, because Jewish law needs also to be tailored to the reality of the individuals. And to just simply outlaw anything within Jewish law, obviously within reason, sometimes is not very advantageous. We have to understand we're not dealing with a sterile environment. We're dealing with human beings. As long as one has a correct predication of precedent one can then determine the case as it's confronting the rabbi at that particular point in time. And it's very important for the rabbi to realize we cannot outsource questions and answers to Google. It's just like you can't sign up to Google to find out your actual diagnosis for the problem that you have. You'd want to go to a doctor. One has to understand that that personal contact between one rabbi and the person asking the question is absolutely critical in order to be able to ensure that the rabbi doesn't just give the right answer, he gives the right answer to the right person as well.
Well, that brings us to the end of this week's show. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do find us on Facebook at Spirit Sister Productions. And if you've missed any of our previous shows, you can find them on our website at www.spiritsister.co.za. As always, from me, Nikki, and the team, shalom, and have a safe and peaceful week.